Have you ever taken a shower and felt less clean after? The water runs over you, you shampoo your hair, you scrub with soap as hard as you can, but still you feel itchy. I know that feeling all too well. Sometimes the water is salty. It's like it's from the ocean, but if you have ever taken a swim in one of those great beasts, you would know that you don't feel clean coming out. Or like when you swim in a pool and you come out smelling of chlorine. Even though you were just in the water, you want to hop in the shower, give yourself a quick wash, and come out feeling refreshed. But what if the shower water was as bad as the ocean, as the pool? Sometimes, when I'm in the shower and it's making me feel so very itchy, I close my eyes and imagine that the water runs black out the faucet. I squeeze my eyes shut even tighter, and I can see it even more clearly. It flows out, bubbling and splashing, black as tar, coating me in the tub in its viscous fluid, and I can feel in my heart that if I were to open my eyes in that exact moment, that would be what I see. But no, I open my eyes and all I see is regular, transparent water flowing from the faucet, even though I can feel it, taste it, the salt. It really does drive me crazy. It has gotten to the point where sometimes I will go days without taking a shower, despite the fact I feel disgusting and dirty and gross, because I can't stand the thought of being so very, very itchy. My hair gets heavy and waxy. My face feels like it's coated in muck. Every time I try to sleep, my bed feels like I'm shifting my way through a sand dune with all the particles in it. But still, I can't bring myself to shower. I can't even wash my clothes because of the terribleness of the water. You have never known true madness until you have worn clothes that make you want to tear your own skin off because when they rub against you, they impart that same maddening itch from the water. It really is unbearable. But what makes it even worse, if you can believe that it can get worse, is the hour after the shower, where the itchiness intensifies even more. It's particularly bad on the chest, like 1,000 mosquito bites all at once. Or the arms, where the itching is so bad that regular scratching doesn't work anymore, and you're reduced to gnawing at it, like you're a coyote stuck in a trap. I just want to bite into my flesh and tear it off my body, because at least then it wouldn't be making that maddening sensation anymore. The only thing I can think of that even comes close to what I am talking about is poison ivy. And if you have ever had the misfortune of stumbling into that particular plant, then you know what I am talking about. And you have my condolences. But at least with the ivy, there is a clear, visible rash that shows what you are feeling is a real medical issue, one that other people can understand and sympathize with. You can buy creams and ointments for it. How am I supposed to tell people that my shower makes me itchy? They would think I'm insane. Maybe I am insane. It would explain a lot. I have talked much about the shower and the terrible, terrible water, but there are other issues with the bathroom as well, which, if you ask me, is the room in the house you want there to be the smallest amount of problems. You don't spend a lot of time in the bathroom, comparatively speaking, but the time you do spend there tends to be rather intimate, if you know what I'm saying. So when you start to find human teeth in the sink when you go to brush in the morning, still red from blood as though they had just been torn out of some unfortunate soul's gums, it really gives a bad start to the day. Can't talk to anyone about that either. They will obviously think I am nuts. Which I might be, because when I go to grab them to get them out of the way, they seem to slip right through my fingers and down the drain. But at least when that happens, they're gone. Poof, don't need to worry about it any longer. Not like the water. Not like the itch. Well, no longer. I simply cannot allow it to continue to fester like this. I need to get to the bottom of this. And by this, I mean that. And by that, I mean the well. Because that is where the water comes from. It's just off to the right of the house, but it's not a well in a traditional sense. I'm sure when you think of a well, you think of a cute little stone tube with a tiny roof on it and a bucket on a rope that lowers down and up. Well, this is a modern well, and that means it's a metal pipe in the ground that just barely juts above the dirt with a lid on it. It's far too small for me to go down myself, but that's fine. It's the modern day, and I own a camcorder. So, after several days of not showering, finally forcing myself to take one, and then feeling as though there are insects under my skin for the next hour or so, I decide to bite the bullet and finally do it. I hadn't up to this point because, frankly, I was scared. Scared of what I might see, or worse, what I might not. The fact that I could lower the camera down and just see a regular pool of water scared me more than whatever I could possibly imagine. But I simply couldn't wait any longer. So, pry off the cap, tie a piece of sturdy rope around the camcorder, turn on its lights and set it to record, and down it goes. It was a harrowing few minutes, just slowly lowering the rope, foot after foot as the camcorder descended. My mind raced with the possibility of what could show up, every next thing worse than the last. A colony of insects making the well their home, then getting sucked up the pipe and poured onto me whenever I turn on the faucet. Some dark liquid pouring from the cracks in the well's walls, polluting the water in which I bathed. Perhaps a pile of squirming and writhing worms, their secretions causing this reaction. More and more possibilities swam through me until I could barely take in breath, causing me to lower the rope faster and faster so I could finally know. I panted, all but throwing the rope into the well with frantic abandon until I suddenly heard a faint splash, echoing up from far below. I jumped, even though I knew that was coming. Of course I knew it was coming. It was why I came out here in the first place. Now we pull it back, pulling out spool of rope end on end on end, until suddenly my progress was halted as the camcorder seemed to get stuck on something, indicated by a sudden tension in the rope. I figured perhaps there was a piece of stone jutting out, so I maneuvered around the well, trying different angles and distances, but it simply refused to budge. Finally, I simply put all thoughts of subtlety to the side and simply yanked on the rope as hard as I could, which finally seemed to do the trick, freeing it from whatever it was stuck on and nearly toppling me over from the sudden slack. After that minor setback, however, I continued to pull more and more until I finally was at the last few feet, indicated by the rope suddenly becoming soaked from the water. I got closer to the well, anxious to see what the camera had recorded. But when I pulled it out, I found myself only looking at the frayed end of a rope. It was not a normal split end, but one that seemed as though something had been grinding its teeth against it until the rope had finally snapped, as it was covered in strange teeth marks and a thick, sticky substance that I could only assume was some sort of saliva. I stared at this sight for a good long while, not sure how I should react. Looking closer, it seemed the teeth that had ground its way through the line were exceptionally dull, but moving extremely fast, almost like sandpaper. And even as I watched, the strange saliva-like substance dripped down from the rope and onto the grass, which instantly began to wither and die. I stared at the grass, watching it turn black and shriveled and dead, and I thought to myself how I had bathed in that. How the water had been making me itchy for months. I slowly, ever so slowly, walked over to the well, peering down into it, not wanting to, but having to. And looking back up at me, from this small 3-inch wide pipe, was an eye, seeming to glow in the dark of its own accord. And then it blinked and moved away. I slowly lifted my head back up, away from the pipe, staring out into the area around me, looking but not really seeing. I processed what I saw, the eye, the chewed rope, the water that made me so very itchy, and I came to the only conclusion I felt I reasonably could. I think it was time to hook my house up to city water.